All right, Tracy in Canada. Thank you so much for waiting so long. And Caleb, please stay on the line because we are going to talk to you too. But Tracy, you're live with Eric and Drew.
Hi.
Hi. What would you like to talk about today?
Well, if I've been watching a lot of these, like a lot of your past episodes of, the show.
Ooh, I'm so sorry.
I'm almost at the point where I could be an atheist, but I'm not like quite there. I mean, it's come quite a long way since I was raised a fundamentalist, young Earth creationist. So
you have a peer.
You do. That is me.
Next to me. Yeah.
But go on.
It's just, I guess. Okay, it's a bit of I'll try and keep the story short, but what happened was, like, when my dad passed away a couple years ago, like, my sister had the priest come and pray over him and stuff, because, well, my sister's Roman Catholic. That I'd explain that. But anyways, my dad had a stroke, and so he wasn't verbal. And so when my sister went to visit him, he reached up and, like, grabbed the crucifix around her neck. And everyone was saying, oh, that's a sign that, he's made peace with God and all that. And I guess it's kind of this thought that, well, maybe, I don't know how to say it, that, like, how do I know that that wasn't what that was? Like, how, because, I like the idea of being able to see my family again, but at the same time, like, looking at the Bible, it's kind of ridiculous.
Yeah.
So
can I ask you a few questions?
Sure.
So, Tracy, I guess the first is, I know that, because it sounds really nice to be able to, go back and see those family members again. It sounds like a wonderful promise.
Yeah.
But whether or not you wanted it to be true, would you agree that either it's true or it's not? It really doesn't depend on whether or not you believe it?
Yeah.
Okay. That's okay. So we're on the same page there. I guess the next question is the story you gave about grabbing for the crucifix. Right?
Yeah.
So let's say that this person did that. What does that say about the existence of a God? I guess I don't follow.
Well, I guess because everyone, well, at least, like, because I have a lot of religious friends and that, and they were all like, oh, well, that's a sign that, he was saying that he was at peace with God, because he wasn't able to talk and he wasn't able to do much because he had a stroke. And so it was, I don't know. I mean, I guess that doesn't really.
I mean, it says something about him.
I mean, it doesn't prove anything. Yeah.
And I mean, that's nice.
Yeah. Was your question, how do you know that was not some kind of supernatural action?
I mean, yeah, I guess because it's kind of like, that's sort of the last bit that's kind of holding me back, that I'm like, well, maybe this is a sign that there is something in the next, like, after we die. But at the same time, it's like, it sounds ridiculous, but it sounds nice at the same time.
Yeah.
I think the answer to that is that you don't know. And we can't definitively know that that was not God. What I would say is, I think that we have more likely and more reasonable explanations for that. And I think those are things I don't necessarily even have to tell you, because you sound like you understand those. I mean, he was in a certain psychological state, and I'm sure, you can understand from there that things like that might happen. It sounds like he was a religious guy, yeah. And so we could understand how that could come about naturally. Now, I don't think that it can be shown that God didn't have anything to do with it. And that's what's a little bit difficult when you're making this leap, because I felt like I was letting myself fall into a dark pit, and I knew I would never be able to climb back up again. But once I reached the bottom, I realized that it was no big deal. It's like in the cartoons when someone falls off the edge of a cliff and they grab onto a branch and they are afraid to let go because they might die, and they realize that the branch is stretched all the way down to the bottom and they can just step off and it's no big deal. But I understand why.
It does kind of feel like I'm about to jump off a cliff.
Yeah. We've been in very similar scenarios here, and it's really not about proving that like a God doesn't exist or proving that God has nothing to do with it. What we have to understand is that it's a bit of a bias. It's called anchoring bias. It's like thinking that this explanation or the way that we look at things has to come back to this specific type of conclusion, or how does this information relate to this conclusion? Well, sometimes we have to realize that conclusion is something that we're starting with and not something we should start with. It's something that we should end with if the evidence leads us there. Now, where does the evidence point in this scenario? I think that question is something that you've probably already answered for yourself. And it sounds like, and don't let me pry too much. It sounds to me, because I've been there, like you're reaching out for just confirmation that this is correct, and we know that there's nothing there. Is that a correct summation?
It's just there's a part of me that still wants to believe, but there's like the rational part of my brain that's like, you know what, this is absolute garbage.
I think Drew and I have both been in that place.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Do you think that you would change as a person if you called yourself something other than Christian?
No.
Do you think that
I think I'd be the same person, like, trying to believe as much truth, like, because I really like what Matt Dillahunty says about trying to believe as much true things as possible.
Oh, yeah.
And a few not true things.
Yeah, absolutely.
I really like that.
Me too. I ripped that off from him entirely.
Because I like to, know what's true.
Mm-hmm. So what are you losing by walking away from or calling yourself an atheist?
Probably just my religious friends. So I've been making some non-religious friends, so that's helping.
So do you think if you were able to join a community that would take care of that?
Yeah.
So it sounds to me like, although you're not using the word, it sounds like you're already an atheist, but you're more worried about how that would impact relationships. And that's something that people call in about all the time.
You're talking to the exact right two people about
that.
Yeah, because my best friend's brother is an atheist, and he's pretty estranged from the family because they're all like, oh, we'll pray for you. And I was talking to her about it, and I pretty much got the vibe that if I went the same way as her brother, it would pretty much be the same thing of like, we'll pray for you, but we're not going to talk to you unless if you're willing to talk about God.
Sure. You know that you can be an atheist and not have to tell people.
Yeah, that's true.
It can be quite difficult, especially if you're very religious, because questions come up quite a bit. I mean, being a fundamentalist, that's supposed to be every part of your life, really. So for me, just me not going to church that regularly was like, are you an atheist? Because only atheists don't go to church sometimes. And so that can be difficult. But
yeah.
I think regardless, Tracy, you don't have to call yourself an atheist to be a part of this community.
That's true.
You don't have to take on that moniker if you're not comfortable with it. You're not alone. You're not alone. And it's going to be okay. You don't have to suffer in silence or alone. We have our communities that we've built. You can check us out. I know Drew's Discord is terrifying. But
No, that's actually something I was gonna leave you with here before Eric, closes this one out. Was if you want to chat about these kinds of things with other people who have gone through it or are going through it now, and it's not really like people are trying to convince you to be an atheist, because I know that when you're in a transitioning phase, you want to make sure, this is about me believing what's true. I don't want someone to just convince me with this agenda. If you want a place where you can just hang out with people and talk about these issues and maybe receive some moral support online in a place that it's so anonymous and it's so just secluded from the rest of the internet that your fundamentalist family will not find you there, come to my Discord. If you go to, I don't know if you really even know who I am, but if you look up Genetically Modified Skeptic and you go to, just one of my recent videos, go to the description. There's an invite for you right there for my Discord. If you want to talk about these things, there's a channel in my Discord called Coming Out, and there's also something called Open Discussions, and we're here to support you. I get on the voice chat all the time. I will probably be on there today, tonight actually, if you want to be on there and chat with me more, because I'm going to be driving a lot.
Driving back home.
Yeah, but that's a place where I hope that we could continue to help you and help you find the community that I think anyone in your situation, including myself, would need.
And then I would be remiss to not also mention that we have multiple channels in multiple places. So there's a productions private group, an ACA productions private group, that if you joined on Facebook, nobody would know that you were there, and we have an awesome community there. We also have a Discord. So there are plenty of places to reach out. You do not have to do this by yourself.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Absolutely. Big, big hug. You take care, okay?
Okay, thank you.
Oh, the feels.
Man.
Yeah.
The main reason why I like having an audience now is because that happens much more often than it used to.
Yeah.
I now spend as much time doing that type of thing, or sometimes actually a lot more doing that than making videos. Making videos is something that allows me to reach out to people so that we can have those conversations. So anytime we have a conversation like that, it's very touching and fulfilling.
Yeah,
to me.
it's life affirming.
Yeah.
It really is. I agree.
Really appreciate those calls.
Tracy, whenever you do decide, or if you do decide to reach out, we're here because we already consider you part of this community.
Definitely.
So, all right.